Hi everyone, and welcome to the pilot episode of Stories My Friends Tell, a new amateur storytelling podcast. My name is Ben Meyerson, and with me today are my very good friends, Sam Gordon, Lily Blumkin, and CJ Graham. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Pretty good.
Couldn't help noticing my name came first. I got too happy about that.
We were going in order of seniority. The eldest, well, you're...
No, because she's younger than I am.
Okay, well, the most important of us went.
And it wasn't alphabetical.
I will never tell you what my system is.
Okay.
Shortness of first name?
That's fair.
Great. Thanks so much for being here. I say let's just get to it. Our first storyteller is CJ Graham. Mm-hmm. CJ is a New York City-based comedian and member of the sketch group Men of the Sea, whose podcast, Spoiling Ourselves, is available on iTunes. His birthday is July 23rd, so that's coming up.
Yep.
CJ, what was the last thing that you did for the first time?
The last thing that I did for the first time was... Yeah, I'd say it was probably develop an addiction to Pokemon Go. That came out just about a week ago now, and my phone's battery is now a bubbling pile of black tar.
I don't play. Are there a lot of Pokemon in your office?
Yes, there are, actually.
Oh.
College campuses, great place to catch Pokemon. So for all of you aspiring Pokemon masters out there, pro tip.
Go to school.
Yeah,
Not to get an education.
To catch Pokemon.
To catch Pokemon.
Catch them all.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, here is CJ's story.
So, like Ben said, I am a New York-based comedian. I've been living in New York for about 2 years now, ever since I graduated. And it feels kind of strange to me to be living here for 2 whole years, because my decision to move here was very arbitrary. I didn't grow up anywhere near New York. None of my family is from New York originally, and I visited the city like once on vacation as a kid. But I'm finally starting to feel like I belong here a little bit, because I finally have a good story to tell about a weird interaction I had in the subway. I don't know why it took me 2 years to come up with my quintessentially New York subway story, but it did finally happen just about a week ago. In fact, it happened the same day you told me you wanted to do this podcast. I was like, gosh, I don't have any good stories to tell. And then on the subway on the way home that night, boom, this happened.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I mean, I had been on plenty of subway cars with plenty of homeless schizophrenics before, but for it to be a good subway story, I always kind of felt that you really needed to be a part of the action somehow. And I feel like everyone pretty much knows that the proper response to a man who smells like burning fertilizer shouting in your train car is to pretend like absolutely nothing out of the ordinary is happening. So I was riding the subway home with my roommate Sam and my boyfriend Mike. Mike was mentioning something about his job at the New York Film Academy, and Sam was wearing a t-shirt from a film festival he worked at. And a guy standing kind of behind us tried to jump into our conversation. He's, I'm sorry to bother you guys like this, but I couldn't help over here, and I thought maybe I heard one of you say something about working in the film industry. And there was this half second of silence where I made eye contact with Mike, because I knew he wasn't really a talk to strangers kind of guy. I don't enjoy talking to strangers either. I think it's really unpleasant 99% of the time. But then Sam helpfully chimed in, yeah, Mike, you work in film sometimes, don't you? And I think at the time it was the most thrown under the bus I had ever seen someone be. It just as thrown under the bus as possible. We do all start talking to this guy, and it quickly becomes as uncomfortable as you would expect based on the setting of the conversation, the subject material, and the very noticeable edge of desperation in his voice when he asked the initial question. Luckily, I had very little to offer the conversation compared to Sam and Mike. They both kind of do work in the film industry. Mike does a lot of, lighting and PAing, and Sam works at a production company that does photo shoots. So I just kind of got to sit back and watch a bit more, and it struck me as a characteristically New York conversation, because not only was this guy, he was short and stocky, he had a very typical New York accent, definitely Italian, and he was asking strangers for advice on how to break into the film industry, also very New York. But what I think really took it to the next level of uncomfortableness was that he was asking for help on how he could help his 12-year-old daughter break into the film industry. So he was doing, obviously, most of the talking and 100% of the dad bragging, because we obviously didn't really want to engage him in conversation. But he was always finding new ways to preface each question he asked with a substantial soliloquy about his daughter. Oh, she was so bright and so talented. She wasn't sure if she wanted to do acting or modeling more. And he kept saying the name of some program or class that she was in, and it made it sound like some sort of agency we might have heard of, but it was really just very sad and desperate sounding. And at one point, the conversation took another noticeably weird turn, because he sort of backtracked a little bit, and he made it sound like maybe she wasn't even really that interested in being an actress or a model, because she had other interests, and he just sort of thought she'd be good at it. I think maybe he was trying not to pigeonhole her somehow, and wanted to let us know that his daughter was a complete and well-rounded individual. But in my mind, because I was so just taken aback by this stranger interaction, I just kind of assumed that she had absolutely no interest in being an actress, and he was just like a pageant mom from Long Island in a man's body. So he knew next to nothing about the film industry, so we did actually end up kind of helping this guy out. Our answers were pretty helpful. We told him that she needed to take acting classes. We told him that, where she could look to find parts in indie movies. And we told him that he would need to put together a reel, which, looking back on it now, was a surprisingly hard concept for him to grasp. And it sort of lends credence to my theory that his daughter had no experience and no interest in being an actress/model. It felt like he asked the same question just over and over again, which, now that I think about it, might have been a tactic to eat up time so that we wouldn't finish our conversation and leave us trapped in the same subway car. But obviously it did make everyone feel super awkward. And at this point, it's a pretty normal but uncomfortable story, but it does take a turn from uncomfortable to what I thought was surreal and bizarre. Because up until this point, he had resisted showing us a picture of his daughter, which I think took just ungodly amounts of restraint on his part. All three of us were waiting for it. We could see it in each other's eyes. We knew it was coming. We were all just trying to figure out in our heads, okay, how ugly is she going to be? So finally, after a few stops, he goes for his phone, and I'm thinking, great, let's get this over with. We will, throw in some platitudes and continue on with our conversation. But when he finally turns his phone around towards us, staring back at us is this adorable, cherubic, 12-year-old black girl. And it took us a second to process what we saw, because just based on their skin tones, there was absolutely no way they were blood related. So yeah, obviously the next logical step was that she was adopted, but you have to understand that there was such a shift in the balance of power within our conversation at that moment that I personally thought the more logical conclusion was that he was doing a bit of some kind. He was clearly initially the beta in the conversation, and suddenly he was just trolling us like I had never been trolled before. And the cherry on top of this whole mundane yet surreal episode was that after finally retaining some of the information we had given him, he thanked us all profusely and told us that his stop was the next stop. But without even pausing to take a breath, he ended his gratitude by saying, "Unless this is also your stop, because that would make this all very awkward." And lo and behold, that was our stop. So I disembarked the subway with this gentleman. We had already said our goodbyes. I tried to say goodbye again so that it wouldn't be as awkward, but then he just went stalking off into the night, and we were left to assume honestly, I still don't know what to think. Yes, obviously his daughter was adopted, but maybe she had been kidnapped and he was forcing her to be an actress or a model. I don't know. I just don't know. I hope beyond all hope that he was really just, pulling a stunt on us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
When you said you wanted to show you a picture of his daughter, I was just expecting it to be a picture of, like, Norma Bates. Or just a picture of him dressed as
That would be
a little girl.
What's so crazy to me about that is that, like, so she's 12, so he must have, like, adopted her at some point, and then realized that, like, he has a hot daughter, not related to him, or he adopted her for that purpose, you know, he
Then
like,
she
went
was
to the
so
adoption
attractive.
agency and just like, that's like a 12-year-old, I'm gonna make a model out of her.
Oh boy, yeah. You know, obviously I don't really know the story behind this man's family situation, but we were expecting something so much different than what we got.
Yeah.
Which just, it floored us for a second.
Yeah.
There was like a full second of silence
Yeah, I was
after...
gonna say, did you guys just like say anything
We
afterwards?
didn't. We obviously didn't address the differing races between his daughter and him.
You're like, oh.
Hey, did you ever notice?
Did you ever realize?
All right. Our next story is coming from Sam Gordon. Sam is a comedian and student at Tufts University, where he is the artistic director of the sketch comedy group Major Undecided and a writer and performer with the Tufts Stand-Up Comedy Collective and the Institute. His birthday is July 25th, which is also coming up. Sam, what's the last thing that you did for the first time? This being an episode of firsts.
Yeah. So I think the most recent first thing I did was I taught a class, a college class. Tufts let us teach classes. I taught a class with my friend Jacob Barr called Dark Topics in Modern TV Comedies. It was pretty fun. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Cool. Well, here is Sam's story.
Okay, so I'm living in New York, much like the rest of you, and I enjoy doing stand-up and storytelling per this podcast. So I was really excited to find out about this mic. It was a storytelling mic that was going to allow me to get 7 minutes on stage, tell the story I've been wanting to tell for a long time. And I was really excited to go tell the story, so I get off the train and I get to the place and I walk in and the bouncer's like, "You got ID?" And I was like, I do, but I'm not 21 yet. And he said, "Oh, so you don't have ID, I can't let you in." It was very confusing, so I was like, I just said I was like, no, I do have ID, but I'm not 21. He's like, "No ID, no entrance." I was like, "I am." And he's like, "You're not." It was like an Abbott and Costello sketch, but the punchline was my shattered dreams. So then, yeah, I was just like, I'm not 21, so I can't go in. I leave, and I'm thinking maybe I'll go to another mic, but I get a call from my girlfriend. She's not feeling well. She wants me to meet her at home. It's fine. I go home, very frustrated though, because I don't know. There's like a very specific kind of anxiety I get when I'm looking to perform and I can't. It's like blue balls of the mind. I don't know. But yeah, I was like really stressed out and angry at this guy. So then I get home and I just start writing. I go through the story I was going to tell and I start editing it. And I have a notebook like most comedians and just people in general to write down ideas. And I start writing more in this book. And I write new jokes and I edit. I write new jokes and I edit some old jokes. And I'm kind of working. Cause I don't know why, but I'm just like so angry and frustrated that I was like, I'm gonna show him, I'm gonna write so much that there wasn't anything past I'm gonna write so much that but I was gonna write so much that I guess. So yeah, I'm writing a lot, and then the next day I go to work, and they don't really have anything for me to do that day, so I'm just sitting at my desk, just stewing, writing. And my office got this like fancy new seltzer called LaCroix, LACROIX, which is fancy fucking seltzer. You can tell because there's an X in it. X is like the character actor. X is the Daniel Day-Lewis of the alphabet, where it's always insisting it's another letter. So yeah, I'm like writing and then drinking seltzer and writing and drinking seltzer, and that night there is a mic I know I can go to. I checked, don't have to be 21, so I go and I'm waiting and I write, and I actually finally filled out my notebook, which I was really excited about. And then it's a little bit before the show, so I go to use the bathroom because I'd had so much LaCroix just stewing in my guts that I needed to get out. And I go to the bathroom still holding my notebook because I'd just been scribbling in it. And I go to use the urinal, and I wasn't going to put my notebook on the ground where it could get all dirty. It had all my anger writing in it. So I was like, the logical thing to do is to tuck it gently in my mouth and grip it like the mama bird I am. So I put it in my beak, I unzip my fly, and I go to pee. And I guess one more important detail to mention about myself is I have trouble peeing when there's other people in the bathroom for whatever reason. Actually, I know why. I saw the movie Waiting, where there's a character who has that problem. After that, couldn't pee when there were people in the bathroom. I don't know how that works. Another way that the movies of Ryan Reynolds have devastated my life. I go to pee, and I start peeing, and then a guy opens the door, and I look, and I go, oh! And as I open my mouth, I see my notebook fall into the urinal, and I'm just like, no! And the thing was, at no moment in your life are you expecting to drop your notebook into the urinal, so I wasn't prepared for it, so I didn't stop peeing right away. So for like a good second and a half, 2 seconds, I watched myself literally pissing away just hours and days and weeks of work, just pissing it right down the drain. All of this work, and I was so angry. The only thing that kind of made it okay, I was furious. Actually, what I ended up doing is, like, I picked it up, and there was a moment where I was like, I could just toss it in my bag. It was soaked, though, and I didn't want everyone at the mic to think of me as, like, piss bag boy or equivalent. So what I ended up doing was, sheepishly, I kind of grabbed it by the very edge of one of the covers and, like, took a picture of the first page, which was kind of like an index of my ideas, and then just threw it in the trash. But then I was leaving and actually ran into Lily here, and I told her this story, and her response wasn't one of sympathy. I'll get that right out of the way.
I wasn't like, oh, you stupid idiot.
No, what she said, though, was, what did the guy say when he walked into the bathroom? Which I thought was so funny, because he didn't see the notebook fall. All he saw was it had already fallen out of my mouth. He just saw a guy standing at the urinal, pissing on a notebook, just going, no! And it wasn't, oh no, like I'd made a mistake. It was no with purpose. Like I'd found the notebook of like a cheating lover and was just pissing away her words violently. So I think that's the one thing that makes me not super angry about that. Although maybe I should be angry, because apparently being furious makes me a prolific writer. I don't know. So there's that story.
Nice.
Cool, thanks.
Wow.
And I started writing again. I got this notebook.
Is it the same notebook?
Yeah, it's my company's.
Yeah.
I went back to work like a week later, and I was like, "Hey, can I have another notebook?"
They're
And she's
"What?
like, "Oh, what happened to the other one?"
Yours?"
What happened? You fucking dropped it. I was just like, I need another one. She's like, "What happened?" I was like, "Can I just have a new one?"
Yeah, pissing on your notebook is surprisingly not one of the most uncommon things at open mics. I imagine that's like a frequent, like, oh, this is garbage.
I cannot believe you threw it away. I'd like just go to the bathroom, get some paper towels.
They didn't have paper towels.
Oh no!
What they had was an air dryer, and it wasn't in the bathroom. It was outside of the bathroom, where everyone in the bar would have been able to see me just drying my piss paper.
Yeah. Okay.
It would have made it look old, you know, like when you did
When you dip in tea leaves
Yeah.
for a project, burn the edges.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, moving on to our last storyteller, we have Lily Blumkin. Lily is a comedian and student at Tufts University, where she performs with the Tufts Stand-Up Comedy Collective, and she writes and performs with the Institute and Tufts Funny Ladies. Her birthday is August 14th, which some would say is the closest.
Some would say is the best date.
You know, it's certainly the most recent. Yep, it's definitely the most
It is
recent.
the most recent.
Oh, don't you even fucking try to call yourself a near birthday.
All right.
Lily, what is the last thing that you did for the first time?
The last thing I did for the first time, I can't really think of something that I did for the first time ever right now, but I'm living at home this summer for the first time in 10 years. which feels like something new.
For a summer, you mean?
For a summer, yeah.
No.
Yeah, not ever.
Right.
No.
They're not welcoming you back into the fold.
I was going to say, that would be a weird family situation.
No, I didn't mention that. I'm a little tired right now. But it's my first summer home in 10 years. It's a little strange, but it's fine.
Nice. Great. Well, here is Lily's story.
All right. This is going to get hashtag real, y'all, so strap in. Okay, I'd like to start off by saying that I have general anxiety disorder, so most things in life completely terrify me. At the top of that list, after abandonment and shitting in public restrooms, is a date party. You guys aren't in sororities, so I'll explain it. A date party is a party in which you are emphatically suggested to bring a date. You're not required, it's just implied. And I should clarify, when I'm able to bring my own date to these parties, I don't usually get scared because I'll bring a friend, and we'll dance a lot, and then we'll go to bed early, and it's super great. But when I'm randomly assigned a date, or in the case of high school prom, when a date is forced upon me, that's when I panic. And now you're probably thinking, but Lily, you sound so confident and so blindingly attractive. How could you ever feel afraid of date parties? I know, it's shocking, right? But it's true. Date parties have sorry, I'm reading off my phone. It's a little small. Anyway, date parties scare me because there's always a pressure to fit a certain mold, to be super hot but still have the same body that I have, to always have a lot of fun but also to not sweat at all, and to always bring a man. None of these rules are written down or even spoken aloud, but they're all there. Trust me. But Lil, you're saying now, shouldn't you just do you and not care what other people think? Fuck yourself. My fear of date parties started very young. I was 5 and it was my first father-daughter dance, and much to my disappointment, my actual father was out of town that weekend, so in his place came the one man who was grander than my father. That's right, my grandfather. I'm hilarious. No, truthfully, father-daughter dancers are pretty weird, right? I never, totally understood why they exist. They present themselves as these really cute, sweet moments in a young girl's life, but they're really sort of patronizing and a little creepy. I don't really understand the point. Is my father supposed to escort me into adulthood with his impeccable box step? Is that what this whole thing is about? Why are there any mother-daughter dances? My mom is a great dancer. She will tell you herself. But anyway, that's enough gender politics for now. Let's get away from that. Anyway, yes, my grandpa accompanied me to my first father-daughter dance, and I'm sorry if you end up hearing this at some point, Papa, but I've gotta be honest, I felt like a total loser showing up to the most popular dance of the year with my grandpa. That's like showing up to prom with your cousin as your date. Or worse, showing up to prom with your grandpa as your date. It was humiliating. And I didn't really know what to do with you, Do we dance? Will your knees hurt if we dance? Do we sit out? But I kind of want to dance, and I brought you here in the first place. This is my dance after all, so we should do what I want, No. You know what, Papa, you're right. I'm sorry. I should listen to my elders. We can sit out for now. Bringing my grandpa to this date was actually more traumatizing than I expected it to be. People stared at us for too long, and my friends wondered why my dad didn't care enough about me to come, and I felt like a real failure, ashamed and, quite frankly, a little lonely. And that was the first moment that I realized that there are certain assigned scripts for these kinds of things. If you wavered outside of that script, you yourself were strange. So the dance happened. I wore a floral yellow dress that was way too fancy. I put on a happy face, and we sat in front of a tie-dyed banner and took a picture that's now framed in my house. We danced here and there, but we were always outdone by actual father-daughter couples who were impeccably synchronized and constantly scoffed at our offbeat step-touching. I kept my head down and counted the minutes until it was over. I was tired of feeling inadequate, and also there was a new episode of SpongeBob on that night, and I really couldn't miss it. So at the end of a long and tiring night, which was realistically probably around 9:30, my grandpa and I drove home where my mom, grandmother, and brother were waiting for us. At least that's what I expected. But when we got home, my grandpa opened the door, and my house alarm immediately went off because no one was home. In my opinion, sirens are some of the worst sounds in the world, along with actual human screams of terror and open-mouthed chewing. And as a kid, you're defenseless to sirens. You had no idea that your house was even able to make that noise, and you feel weirdly betrayed because you trusted your house to never scare you like that. You also had no clue how to make this horrible noise stop, and in this case, neither is your grandpa. After a few half-hearted attempts to figure out the alarm code, he tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, nothing worked. He gave up and eventually decided that it was just best to call my mom and wait. So we stood outside for a good 10 minutes, listening to my house wail and wail, waking up all the neighbors and instilling in me the most fear I had ever felt up to that point. By now, I was brimming with frustration at my grandpa. First, his presence made me feel like a total loser at the dance. Then, he disappointed me on the dance floor. And now, he couldn't even shut my scary house up? What was his deal? Again, I'm so sorry, Papa. I decided to take matters into my own hands. As you guys can surely tell, I was a very precocious child. But even for me, there were moments when fear and anxiety overruled my intellect. And this was one of those moments. My terrified child brain decided that the easiest solution was just to scream as loud as I could for my mom, because I figured if I yelled loud enough, she would definitely be able to hear me. She didn't hear me. Even as I stepped outside and yelled things like, "Mom, I know you can hear me! Come home right now! You can hear me, you're my mother!" She didn't hear me. Soon enough, the fire department came, and then the police came, and then 20 minutes later, the rest of my family finally showed up. Eventually, they were able to shut off the alarm, and my mom calmed me down and reassured me that everything was in fact okay. She put me to bed and promised that this would never happen again. But it did. Well, not the alarm part, but the whole humiliating dance party part. The storyline has always been the same. I'll attend a dance that's marketed as fun, like prom, a mystery day party with my sorority, etc. I'm either forced or suggested to bring a man who may or may not be my first choice, and I always end the night in tears. So now you're asking me, why do you keep going to these things if you always end up crying? And my answer to that is because I like to fucking dance. Is that a crime? And then most of the time, when there aren't these unofficial rules at play, I end up having a really good time. Also, why are you talking to me? I'm in the middle of telling a story. Anyway, these tears might have been the result of my anxiety, my ceaseless desire to not care about my looks or my personality, yet always feel trapped by the traits that I have. But I would be lying if I said that this first father-daughter dance didn't impact me for the future. It showed me that my appearance matters to me more than I would like it to, which is something I continue to struggle with today. It showed me that pictures don't always show the full story, looking at you, Sochneeds. And it showed me how limiting societal expectations can be. And I thought we were done with politics, but like I said before, that's fucking stupid. Anyway, would I have had more fun if I had gone to the dance with my mom? Maybe. Would I have felt incredibly uncomfortable with it? Definitely. Do I have more fun if I go to these date parties with lady friends? 100%. Do I still get confused looks? Absolutely. Do I feel more comfortable if I wear flats instead of heels? Uh-huh. Do I ever wear flats instead of heels? Are you fucking stupid? You get the point. What I'm trying to say is that parties like these are complex and strange events that reflect a lot more about our society and ourselves than we care to realize. They can absolutely be fun, and I can attest, but they are also incredibly weird no matter what age you are. That doesn't mean that... That sounds... Okay, they're not like... Okay, I wrote this like... Whatever, like an hour ago. But I should say... Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Oh my god, I'm sweating so much right now. Okay, that doesn't mean you shouldn't attend them, as I will certainly be attending more date parties in the future. I am still single after all. It just means that for the future, for people to whom this advice applies, which I recognize isn't everyone, not everyone likes to dance, and if you're one of those people, please reach out to me because I have some questions. But for people who do attend these parties, it just means that we can and frankly should allow some flexibility in the script that we uphold. Not everyone wants to grind up on some guy tonight. Not everyone wants to cake on makeup like she's on the freaking runway. And not everyone's father is in town to box step you into adulthood that weekend. And saying all this doesn't mean that I think doing any of those things are bad. Can you tell how much I'm sweating, you guys? But humiliating other people into doing these things is, in my humble opinion, not the best. A good piece of advice is to just do you, as you, dear listener, have suggested earlier today. And that isn't always easy, I certainly know, but creating space for people who feel comfortable doing them is definitely achievable. Realistically, that kind of openness won't happen overnight, but there is a short-term solution if you want to feel more comfortable in these kind of situations. Don't bring your grandpa to the first father-daughter dance that you attend. That is all.
Nice.
Alright. I'm just gonna say, yeah. Personally, I enjoyed that story a lot more on paper than I did saying it out loud.
It was great.
But
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
good story.
Yeah.
Boy, kids are real manipulative pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Like that, Mom, I know you can hear me.
Yeah.
Also, how come your child voice was lower than your normal voice? You were talking and your voice up here, and then you're like, Mom, I know you can hear me.
Because I was super fucking precocious, like I said.
Yeah.
That's
So
not
I
what
went,
precocious
I went
sounds.
reverse puberty, you know?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we were all sweating a lot, so I'm gonna cut it off here. That's all we have for stories my friends tell. I want to thank again our storytellers Sam Gordon, Lily Blumkin, and CJ Graham.
Still first.
My name is Ben Myerson. I don't know if we'll have a second episode or what's gonna come of this. I had a good time, but thanks for listening, Mom. If anyone else tuned in, I'll call it a success. I'm gonna turn the AC on now.
Woo!
Yay.